Welcome to another edition of the Football Behavior Management stream. Welcome. Actually, this is episode 10 in a series on brain types of famous footballers. The topic for today is Messi. We have been going over a number of players. If you have not yet watched the general introduction, please do so, because that is very much enlightening. You will enter the link in the chat, so please check it out. I can also put it on the stream. There's the article. The link is in the chat. Please check it because it is quite a lot of background information of why players do not have a personality, but rather have evolutionary behavioral patterns. That is quite something else. So the topic for today is Messi, but we have a question first about, but also indirectly, directly to do with Messi, because we already discussed Messi in the previous episode 9, where we're discussing the brain type of Luis Suarez. Who I suspect, well, I think I've given enough evidence of that he has a type 8 boss brain, and we did not go into all the details of Ibrahimovic, but he is also likely to have a type 8 brain. And we were discussing how it was possible that Ibrahimovic and Messi did not go well together, whereas Suarez and Messi did go very well together. And my explanation was that Ibrahimovic was much more of an individual autonomous player, and that Suarez is more of a social player, mainly because Suarez was probably much more relaxed when playing, at least at Barcelona, and Ibrahimovic was much more using his stress to build up his aggression and to move towards autonomy. So let me show it on the in the model. So here we have Messi. I was quite provocative because he is Mr. Barcelona, but here he is in a Paris Saint-Germain shirt, because he is currently not playing at Barcelona, but at Paris Saint-Germain. So here's the neurogram model, which works really well for players and to determine their brain type and the evolutionary behavioral patterns. That gives lots of insight how to best manage a player, how best influence the player, how to get the player to get to a peak performance, and how to make sure that they build loyalty with the club or with the agent, etc., etc. Well, we've gone over it in all the episodes. But overall, we do not like players to go to the exploration part if that means that they're going to overthink the problem. So here's the question from Faker Simic. Hello, Faker Simic. Hello, everybody else. Shaila, Sean, Kaim, you're all more than welcome. The question is, yesterday I was told that Messi often was in the area of type 3 because in that position he was much more towards autonomy. Messi is a striker, or he actually plays different roles, but he's an attacker or a striker. It was said that it's also possible that he was moving toward type 6, but it was unlikely that he would mean because it would mean that he would be in the area of thinking, and that would make him as that wouldn't make him as productive in scoring as being in the other area, which is scoring image. Well, so the relaxation state for Messi is probably much better at making sure that he scores than the stress state. Does this mean that for type 8, as Ibrahimovic, moving to the area of autonomy makes him more productive in scoring despite of thinking, or does it mean that moving to autonomy for type 8 is being automatically followed by thinking, as one can influence this, for instance, with NLP? Well, it's a bit of the latter. I will explain it in detail. So it was quite a long question. So to sum up, Messi, as a type 9 mediator, Messi has most likely a type 9 mediator brain. And that means that he is, if you look at this scheme, he is all the way on the top of the scheme. And the more you're up on the top, the more you're interested in social stability. And that is associated with defending. And we'll see when we go through a number of sources on Messi that it actually is also described by those sources. But of course, yeah, Messi is a striker. So why would we think that he has this social brain? Well, of course, for other reasons. And if he has, and I think he has, a type 9 mediator brain, how can he come closer to autonomy, which is more associated with attacking? Well, there are actually two paths. If you look closely to the diagram in the heart of this model, you can move from type 9, the topmost part, to the left corner, bottom left corner, to type 6, but that's the stress behaviors for the type 9 mediator, or the type 3, which is the relaxation patterns. Now, if you would do that for the type 9 mediator, if you move to 6, it's actually, you cannot really see that as well as it should be, but you basically get in this position that you're in between opening for reasoning and detached. And there's nothing wrong with exploration. So to be clear, we have already added it here. It still says scanning. Scanning is the external behavior of exploration, but exploration is also pretty much tied to game intelligence or vision, as it is described. And we'll see that Messi also has vision, but that is more of his stress behavior. And the real problem with the exploration part is being open for reasoning. So the disinhibition part, where you just don't like rules and you're going to be very impulsive, that's what Ibrahimovic Suarez have as a neutral behavioral pattern. That's also part of exploring, because now you're exploring to see how much you can get away with. That's, of course, quite a different exploring than open for reasoning, which is exploring the inner world, looking for new goals and new strategies. Whereas detached is also a kind of exploring, because detached means, okay, I'm so detached from the real world that I don't mind wandering out in the outer world. So you can see that the type 6 is much more associated with the, an in-between position between open for reasoning and being detached, whereas the type 5 is pretty much only the detached part. So and that means that the detached part is, he, as a type 5, he doesn't mind not having that many material rewards. Instead, he just wants to go out in the world, in the real world, and find facts. And that is also a form of exploration, of course. It's also quite thoughtful in the sense that you have to order those facts. And in fact, the type 5 analyst will order the facts in a way that he creates his own world and his own agenda. The case in point is Marco van Basten. We discussed him. But it is way less of a exploring of the inner world as overthinking that open for reasoning is. So even though it's quite thoughtful, the move from 8 to 5 is way less destructive for playing football than the move from 9 to 6, because 9 to 6 moves way too close to open for reasoning. And it has a very particular evolutionary behavioral patterns of actually starting to overthink things and try to come up with explanations and causations and stuff, and causal stories and stuff like that, and becoming suspicious, trying to figure things out. So overthinking as a evolutionary behavioral pattern is part of the stress behaviors of the stressed person with a type 9 mediator brain, for instance Messi. But that is not the case if you move from 8 to 5. Then the evolutionary behavioral patterns are basically using your aggression to scare off other people and say, oh no, go away, I want to be on my own. So go away, I want to be on my own. is way less hindering playing football than starting to rationalize and think and stuff during the match. And so we have I actually talked to quite a lot, because most people have a type 9 mediator brain. It's 1 in 3 people. So actually all the players that I interviewed, most of them had indeed type 9 mediator brains. And they all explained to me, yes, indeed, when I'm stressed, if the manager puts stress on me, if he puts me under pressure, if he's trying to use aggression and stuff like that to get me to play better, then in fact I will start to overthink it, and then it will hinder my play. And I will not reach peak performance if I'm stressed. So it's very different from, so 9 to 6 is a very different stress behavior than 8 to 5. And 8 to 5 is quite workable within football. But 9 to 6 is much more destructive and much more of a problem for football. So that is the main reason why Ibrahimovic can still attack very well when under stress and if he's fucked up. But Messi is much less likely to play well that way. So that is part of the answer. And then... I'm not sure whether you can actually influence that much, because the evolutionary behavioral patterns are actually untrainable patterns. So you can train yourself to get to do the healthy versions, the positive versions, but that's not that is pretty much unable. You're pretty much unable to do that for the stress behaviors. But then you can find some routine that it is a little bit less annoying or less hindering than on average. So you can train a bit of it, but in general, I would say, especially for players with a type 9 mediated brain like Messi, it's much better to basically be relaxed, to have a manager that builds you up, that gives you confidence, that says, yes, I believe in you, you can do it, let's go. That will work much easier than trying to learn to play under stress. So hopefully that was an answer to your liking. If not, let me know, then I'll see if I can explain it even further. If not, then let's start with Messi. I think I already explained most of it. He has probably a type 9 mediator brain. As an attacker, he has to move towards autonomy. The best way for him to do so, as what we just discussed, is going from 9 to 3. And move towards assertiveness and enthusiasm. And of course, he's coming from a place from compassion and politeness. So it's a very nice player to have in the team, especially if you have a team of friends rather than a team full of fighters. Then the type 9 mediator is very much at its place. So let's see if we can find some data to back this up. That's my article on neurogram types and football players. Here is the part on his play style from Wikipedia. As a prolific goal scorer, Messi is known for his finishing, positioning, quick reactions, and the ability to make attacking runs to beat the defensive line. Well, this is all that is not very specifically to the neurogram. He also functions in a playmaking role, courtesy of his vision and range of passing. So those are vision and passing. As you already said, vision is pretty much exploration. That's what here is called scanning. You only can develop your vision if you actually scan the environment. But passing is the exploitation part. And that's actually what you always see with type 9 mediators. These are the people who are very good at doing one thing, but also the other. If you, there is a question. There's a follow-up question. Vega Simic asks, Joost, as you are I am not a type 3, but I have a type 3 brain. As I have a type 3 brain, does it also mean that you are stressed when giving your trainings, as you have to be social? Score high on agreeableness. Well, actually, you have been to my training programs. My training programs are not that social, and so that is my easy solution. But if I am in social environments, receptions, marriages, networking environments, then indeed I am quite stressed. Thankfully, mostly due to neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, and hypnosis, I know how to behave. I'm much less of an asshole nowadays than I was in the 90s. But fortunately, during my training programs, I am very much relaxed. I am most of the time quite at the end of the six, so I can use the training programs to be a philosopher, or I am very assertive and enthusiast in the neutral zone, basically because I can be quite antisocial in the training programs, because if you combine antisocial behaviors with love and humor, then you can get away with it. But it's a great question. Thank you for that. So going back to Messi. Here we have these type 9 mediator brain people, and they are very good at what I call situational thinking. If you ask them a question, most likely their answer is, well, I can see myself doing something like that with certain people in certain occasions, in certain situations, under certain circumstances. But I can also see the opposite, doing myself the opposite. So they are very good at thinking in terms of situations, situational thinking. They can see them, do almost anything with anyone. Why? Well, they have a very social brain and they score high on agreeableness. So they like to be liked, they love to be loved, and that means that they actually always see the value of things and always are kind of in balance. So except for the social part, most of the time they're way too social for their own good. That's the only thing that is out of balance, but everything else is almost always, well, for instance, conscientiousness and disambition. Yeah, I like to protect my long-term goals against short-term impulses, but on the other hand, I can also behave quite impulsiveness. Openness for experience, openness for reasoning. Yes, I am quite open for experiences, but at other times I am much more thinking. Are you sensitive for material rewards or detached? And say, well, I can be detached, but I can also be quite sensitive to rewards. So they're always kind of this balancing act. And that's what you see as well with Messi, where they say, yeah, he's great. He has a great vision, but on the other hand, he's also a great passer. There's a question by El Alami. Good to see you, El Alami. Did not notice that you were already on the stream. You're welcome as well, of course. I'm not sure whether you how does Messi deal with deadline and time pressure. That is obvious. It's a good question. It's an obvious question for someone who knows the neurogram model. Type 9 mediators tend to postpone things. I did not check whether, because that's very difficult to check, because that's often not in the media. But let me check. So I'm not sure whether that is that we can trace that, even though, of course, he did postpone the whole contract negotiations with Barcelona quite a lot this year, but he thought he would get a deal. But in football, there is a different thing, and that is actually how much time and space do you get from your opponent. And so what the media calls, this he can play out of a situation of pressure, is actually playing well when you have very little time and very little space. And Messi does it very well. I associate little time and little space with stress, which would just suggest that that would not be something that would typically be easy for a type 9 mediator or some player with a type 9 mediator brain. But Messi, of course, is very good. Actually, people think he can play very well without time and without space. But that is also pretty much about passing and about seeing opportunities, which is the exploitation part. So moving to type 3. So where I would see little time, little space, or less time, less space as stressful, I think that Messi actually finds it very relaxing, enjoys having less time and less space. But that's for his play on the pitch. and not how his personal life is run. So that question I can't answer. But you can see that balancing act that I was describing with Messi, that is typical for all mediators. And you can also see that in the description of his playstyle, where he says, well, courtesy of his vision and range of passing. Well, those are exploration and exploitation. He's often described as a magician, a conjurer, creating goals and opportunities where seemingly none exist. And we already discussed this idea of the opportunities. And that is pretty much what I mean by exploitation. So exploration leads to vision. If you use the terminology of Wikipedia, I would say it's game intelligence, or actually scanning. Game intelligence is still a psychological construct, whereas scanning is something that you can actually have an external behavior you can see. But on the other hand, we have opportunists, people who see opportunities and are able to exploit those opportunities. And Messi is great at both, and that is also here again this balance that most mediators have. Where are we going? He's a well-rounded, hard-working team player. Well, that is type 9 mediators are doers. Okay, I thought there was another part that I wanted to show. No. So let's move to the other thing. This is an article about why is Cristiano Ronaldo hated so much. And then the journalist says, I think that a lot of hatred is a result of the comparison to Messi. So they're comparing Ronaldo to Messi. Of course, we did check Ronaldo. He is our example or our model for the type 2 helper brain type. Messi is a player that everyone loves to love. And this is obvious what happens a lot with people who score high on agreeableness. And so if you go back to the model, you can see that the agreeableness is straight up there with the type 9. That is for social stability. And people who score high on agreeableness are very lovable. And you can see that again as is recognized by journalists. And they actually continue. A very humble and reserved personality, he shies away from the limelight and overcame great struggles in his career early stages. Well, of course, overcoming issues is not part of the model, but they do talk about a reserved personality, and that's actually the combination of compassion and politeness. I'm not sure whether you can read it, but the two small circles below agreeableness, those are the two aspects of agreeableness, and those two aspects are actually compassion and politeness. And of course, if you have a lot of compassion and you are very polite, especially within football, of course, then you're often described as humble and reserved. If you then use it as if you're stressed, so if you had to struggle a lot in this early career, then the type 9 moves to type 6, you can see, and you get unmoved, but more importantly, the second fiddle. Then he's willing to play the second fiddle. That is all, of course, also a way that the shies away from the limelight part of this quote is actually referring to. And so this is quite a stressed, a link or a hint that he was quite stressed at the time. And then we have another quote from Wikipedia, somewhat further down below. In Argentine society, Messi is generally held in lesser esteem than Maradona. Of course, we did look into Maradona's brain type as well. He is our exemplary for the type 7 brain, or the player with the type 7 brain. Well, it's good to see he hit all the ones that are mentioned. Of course, they are the superstars of the football world of all time. A consequence of not only his perceived uneven performances within the national team, but also of difference in class, personality, and background. Messi is in some ways the antithesis of his predecessor, where Maradona was an extroverted, controversial character who rose to greatness from the slums. Messi is reserved, you have again, an unassuming and unremarkable man outside of football. And of course, we know that extroverted is just not the right way to describe Maradona's behavior. He just wants to follow his impulses, and those impulses led to behaviors that other people described as extroverted, but might not have been extroverted at all. Because extroverted would mean that he would be very sensitive to material rewards, and if that were the case, he would have been stressed, and he would much more be inclined to make deals with money involved. But Messi is reserved, and we already discussed it, and unassuming. That is very important. An unremarkable man outside of football, and this is also one of the typical signs of a type 9 mediator brain, because the type 9 mediator wants to be the normal person. We have a Dutch saying that says, okay, just act normal, because normal is already crazy enough. And that is the motto of the type 9 mediator, the person or the player with the type 9 mediator brain. They like to be normal. They like to have the normal things of life in order. They want to have a nice relationship. They want to have a good income, and they want to have a nice house. And that is basically what they want. They don't need the attention that Ronaldo needs. They don't want the excessive life that Maradona enjoyed. No, just do normal. Normal is good enough. And here you can see that that is actually one of the things that other people noticed about him, and which is very typical for only the type 9 players and persons with only the type 9 mediator brain. Shaila has a question. Will you tell something about the difference between a 9 with an 8 wing and a 9 with 1 wing? And how you notice the difference at football? Well, it's very difficult to notice those differences because they're very subtle. There is indeed, for those people who are not aware, so the model does not believe, the neurogram model or the underlying scientific theory of cybernetic Big Five theory does away with categories. These are not boxes that people are somehow trapped in. These are actually, the model is actually kind of a map. So Messi is, if he's in the neutral state, his brain is in the neutral state, he is somewhere in the area of agreeableness, compassion, and politeness. If he relaxes, he is somewhere in the neighborhood of extraversion, assertiveness, and enthusiasm. And if he's stressed, then he's somewhere in the neighborhood of open for reasoning, detached, second fiddle, and unmoved. Now, there are two subtypes of the type 9 mediator. One that moves a little bit more towards the type 8, so there's more a combination of disinhibition and agreeableness, and one that is more to come towards the type 9, more conscientiousness and agreeableness, which is the other subtype. But again, these differences are actually quite subtle. They're quite interesting as well, but many people spend way too much time discussing them because it just gives them something to talk about, and that often is irrelevant. It could be relevant. For instance, the other thing that I thought about when I was already done with the stream, we discussed the difficult relationship between Ibrahimovic and Messi, and whereas Suarez and Messi went much better. And that could also be the case that Ibrahimovic might have a type 8 with a 7 wing, so he moved a little bit from disambition towards open for reasoning. And Suarez might have more a type 8 brain with more moving towards the 9 wing. which makes him a bit, no, not even a bit, quite a bit more social than Ibrahimovic, but also quite a bit more like Messi. So that would be one of the other reasons why Messi could deal well with Suarez, but less well with Ibrahimovic. If I have not studied it for Messi, so for Ibrahimovic and Suarez, I thought that might also be one of the reasons why they acted so differently in their relationship with Messi. But with Messi, it is a bit more difficult to say, but I can come to a conclusion that I will work towards it. So one of the other things that players with a type 9 mediator brain have is that if they do too much of the social stability, then you can see that social stability turns into dependency and in the dependent personality disorder. And that means that they're too attached to other people and places and employees. So Messi has started to play at Barcelona at the age 13. And I think he's now like 34 or something like that. Let's check. People in football are always very much find it important to. Yeah, he's 34. I got it right. If I make mistakes, people in the football clubs that I work for, like Twente and Kortrijk and Leicester, they get annoyed by me if I make silly mistakes like that. I find it irrelevant, but they find it very relevant. So actually, he stayed from age 13 till 34 with the same club. And this is very typical for players with a type 9 mediator brain. They tend to stay too long with the same club because they get into the dependency mode. They just think that, well, there's nobody who loves me so much like this club. Well, I think Messi is one of the players who stayed the longest with the same club. Of course, he already started at the best club, one of the best clubs in the world. So that also makes it more likely to stay with the same club. You don't have this progress of better and better and better and better clubs that he went from. Nevertheless, given that it's so long that he stayed at Barcelona, 21 years, that also could mean that he had more of a conscientiousness than of disinhibition. And that would also explain why his relationship with type 8 bosses like Ibrahimovic would be so much more stressed. If he had a 9 with an 8 wing, if he moved more between the area between disinhibition and agreeableness, then it might probably be much easier to deal with Ibrahimovic. So given that he is staying so long, well, at Barcelona, that he stayed so long at Barcelona, that's already a clear indication that he has a type 9 mediator brain. But given that it was so long, that will actually be strengthened if he also has scores high on conscientiousness. Of course, we already saw that he was a hard worker. And so the aspects of conscientiousness are industriousness and orderliness. So we can already see that he is much more likely to be a hard worker, industrious, than that he goes for the short term of disinhibition. So for those reasons, I will go that he has a 9 with he has a type 9 mediator brain with a 1 wing, so that he moves between agreeableness and conscientiousness. So it was a bit of a work towards the answer, but I think it is a very nice answer, even if I say so myself. And even while I did not study it in the sources on the different websites and media, and nevertheless, I did remember that we just read that he was hardworking. And that is the great thing about the neurogram model, is that you can actually, once you understand the model, you can understand pretty much how people or explain and understand why people behave in a way that they do behave. So I think Shaila is happy with the answer. Well, me too. So this makes 2 of us. Hopefully all the other viewers are happy with it as well. So I think I have one more to go, because I thought this was a very nice tweet on Messi. Selfless genius Messi versus selfish attention seeker Ronaldo. This is probably one of those Twitter questions. Who you like more, Messi or Ronaldo? And here the guy says, well, one is selfless, so very social, Messi, versus selfish, attention seeker, Ronaldo. Of course, we have seen that attention seeking is actually a behavioral, evolutionary behavioral pattern of a person with the type 2 helper brain. But I don't think that, I explained it when we discussed Ronaldo, the type 2, a couple of weeks ago. We spent quite some time discussing footballers. It is not that he is that much selfish. Of course, for helpers to be a good striker, like Ronaldo is a fantastic striker, he has to move to autonomy. So moving to autonomy always makes you more selfish. So I don't agree that Ronaldo is that selfish, but of course he is attention seeking, whereas Messi has no link to the type 2 helper, except that the mediator is the real helper, but we don't call him that like that. And so the whole his social brain, it's obvious when you see him play, when you see how he is on the pitch and off the pitch, and people recognize that, and that means that they see him as this selfless genius. And so for all those reasons, I conclude that Messi has a type 9 mediator brain. Questions, remarks, or are we finished? Has everybody come to the same conclusion that indeed Messi has a type 9 mediator brain? So while we wait for people to, if they have questions, to put the questions in the chat, I would also like to thank all the viewers, and also if you are not yet following me, when you're not following me yet, please do follow me here on Twitch. I really, it really strengthens my resolve and my willpower to continue streaming. When I see that people follow me, it's the best way to share your appreciation with me of these streams. And of course, I really appreciate it as well. When people follow me, please do so if you have not done yet. I don't see any remarks. I don't see any questions. So I guess we're done for today. So, oh, there is a question. The transfer was without conflict. No, it was. I think it was a pretty disastrous transfer. So his contract ran out, and he was trying to get a new contract with Barcelona. I really wanted to stay, but Barcelona is broke, so they could not pay his salary, and that was why he was not prepared to play for a very low salary. So that was why he, in the end, he did not sign a new contract with Barcelona, but instead went to Paris Saint-Germain, where he probably has a very, very good salary. But it was he was in tears when he left Barcelona. It is very stressful for type 9 mediators to move like that. So now the transfer was not without conflict, but of course he did not call people names. Of course, compassion and politeness still work in his favor, so he's not going to scream and shout, but it was a very difficult period for him, I think. There's another question. Nice stream. Are you going to continue streams like this? Well, for the short term, no. This was a series of 10 streams, and this was the 10th stream. So we are doing this to support my company, where it works with football clubs and agents, football behavior management. Let's get it back on the stream. So if I find out that this somehow helps my football business quite a lot, then I definitely will make sure that I continue doing it. But for now, this has been the last one where we do these kind of things. But, well, I say, bombard me with messages and get other people involved. We have a Discord server where you can... for those people who are not yet on Discord, here is the Discord link. And the more people you get on Discord to pressure me to do these kind of streams, then I'm going to continue them. But on the short term, there are no plans to continue doing this. So we'll start with something new Saturday, hopefully, if I can manage it to prepare it, which will be basically about the philosophy of neurolinguistic programming, why neurolinguistic programming is way more radical than most people think. So that's probably Saturday. Tomorrow I have to check. I'm not 100% sure because I'm spending the whole day, or at least from 12 to 5. I am tied up with a meeting of the Society for System Thinkers at my place, and I'm going to check to see whether I can actually, because I think it's a public meeting, so why not stream the public meeting on the internet? So I'm going to check to see whether they like that we can stream the meeting of the Society for System Thinkers, whether we can stream that live tomorrow afternoon from 1 to 5 or 1 to 4. And depending how tired I am or not, then I plan to do a philosophy TV tomorrow evening in Dutch. And that will be then about behaviorism. So that's the planning for Friday. Saturday, we do hopefully the philosophy of NLP, probably a stream about pragmatism, if I can manage it. And I have to discuss it with Nora Lisa, but I think that hopefully Sunday we're going to do something with Nora Lisa again. So those are the streams for the coming days. Thank you all for watching. We are done for today. Hopefully I'll see you soon for one of the other streams. For now, bye. Thank you all. Bye.